Blessed love and peace. This is recitation of Tobadiko Kadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Digha Nikaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, and Tao Te Ching. This is portion numero 30, which is Kedoshim. And that includes from Torah, Parsha Kedoshim, which is Vaikra 19 a 27 from the Chandogya Upanishad. It is Kanda 4, número 16. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Bhakti Yogahe, número 12. From Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 32 y 33. From Minke, it is chapter 10 of 28. From the Digha Nikaya, it is the Janavasabha Sutta, número 18. From the Dhammapada, it is Chitta Vaga, número 3. From Gospels, it is Luke chapters 15 a 16. And from the Quran, it is Surah Yasin, which is número 36. And from the Kitab Yakdas, it is the concluding portion, which is verses 172 a 190. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Dao ke Dao. Fei cheng Dao. Ming ke Ming. Fei cheng Ming. Ja. Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in cielo sanctificatum nomen tuum. Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch ata Elohim, Eloheinu melech olam, asher katzanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'rvai Torah. Amen. Baruch ata Elohim, Eloheinu melech olam, barei peri agafen. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu savejikatehi, sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabiyam. Akwaba upendo na amani, fikiri ineselami, chinta dam per me lia bovame wumajaka. Ubuntu shabono fakithka. Shishem, kamo sanira domo arigato pelo mayelo wakantonka. Tok odokushin gu managan. God, we thank you for all your blessings. Ata jamya yata afanami. Vado ho om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. From Torah, Kedoshim, Vaikra 19, 1 a 27. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the entire congregation of the children of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, Elohim, your God, am holy. Every man shall fear his more and his far, and you shall observe my Shabbatot. I am Elohim, your God. You shall not turn to the worthless idols, nor shall you make molten deities for yourselves. I am Elohim, your God. When you slaughter a peace offering to Elohim, you shall slaughter it for your acceptance. It may be eaten on the day you slaughter it, and on the mañana, but anything left over until the third day shall be burned in fire. And if it would be eaten on the third day, it is abominable, it shall not be accepted. And whoever eats it shall bear his sin, because he has profaned what is holy to Elohim, and that person shall be cut off from his people. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not fully reap the corner of your field, nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. And you shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you collect the fallen individual grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am Elohim your God. You shall not steal, you shall not deny falsely, you shall not lie, one man to his fellow. You shall not swear falsely by my name, thereby profaning the name of Elohim. I am Elohim. You shall not oppress your fellow, nor you shall not rob. The hired worker's wage shall not remain with you overnight until Matan. You shall not curse a deaf person, you shall not place a stumbling block before a blind person, and you shall fear your God. You shall fear your God. I am Elohim. You shall commit no injustice in judgment. You shall not favor a poor person or respect a great man. You shall judge your fellow with righteousness. You shall not go around as a gossip monger. amidst your people. You shall not stand by the shedding of your fellow's blood. I am Elohim. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your fellow, but you shall not bear a sin on his account. You shall neither take revenge from nor bear a grudge against the members of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Elohim. You shall observe my statutes. You shall not crossbreed your livestock with different species. You shall not sow your field with a mixture of seeds, and a garment which has a mixture of shatnez shall not come upon you. If a man lies carnally with a woman, and she is a handmaid designated for a man, and she had not been fully redeemed, nor had her document of emancipation been granted her, there shall be an investigation. They shall not be put to death, because she had not been completely freed. He shall bring his guilt offering to Elohim to the entrance of the tent of meeting, a guilt offering ram, and the Kohen shall effect atonement for him with the guilt offering before Elohim for the sin that he had committed, and he shall be forgiven for the sin that he had committed. When you come to the land and you plant any food tree, you shall surely block its fruit from utilization. It shall be blocked from you from utilization for 3 years, not to be eaten. And in the 4th year all its fruit shall be holy, a praise to Elohim. And in the 5th year you may eat its fruit. Do this in order to increase its produce for you. I am Elohim your God. You shall not eat over the blood. You shall not act on the basis of omens or lucky hours. You shall not round off the corners of your head, and you shall not destroy the edge of your beard. You shall not make cuts in your flesh for a person who died. You shall not etch a tattoo on yourselves. I am Elohim. You shall not defile your daughter by making her a harlot, lest a land fall into harlotry, and the land be filled with indecency. You shall observe my Shabbatot and revere my sanctuary. I am Elohim. You shall not turn to the sorcery of Ov or Yedoni. You shall not seek these and thereby defile yourselves through them. I am Elohim your God. You shall rise before a venerable person, and you shall respect the elderly, and you shall fear your God. I am Elohim. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not taunt him. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be as a native from amongst you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Elohim your God. You shall not commit any perversion of justice with measures, weights, or liquid measures. You shall have true scales, true weights, a true ephah, and a true hin. I am Elohim your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe all my statutes and all my ordinances, and fulfill them. I am Elohim. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, And to the children of Israel you shall say, Any man of the children of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn amongst Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech, shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall pelt him with stones. And I will set my attention upon that man, and I will cut him off from amidst his people, because he gave of his offspring to Molech, in order to defile my holy ones and to profane my holy name. But if the people of the land ignore that man when he gives of his offspring to Molech, not putting him to death, I will set my attention upon that man and upon his family, and I will cut him off, and all who stray after him to stray after Molech from amidst their people. And the person who turns to Ov or Yedoni to stray after them, I will set my attention upon that person, and I will cut him off from amidst his people. You shall sanctify yourselves and be holy, for I, Elohim your God, am holy. For I am Elohim your God. And you shall observe my statutes and fulfill them. I am Elohim who sanctifies you. For any man who curses his far or his more shall be put to death. He has cursed his far or his more, his blood is upon himself. And a man who commits adultery with another man's wife, committing adultery with the wife of his fellow, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. And a man who lies with his far's wife has uncovered his far's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have committed a depravity. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who lies with a male as one would with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who takes a woman and her more, it is evil counsel. They shall burn him and them in fire, and there shall be no evil counsel in your midst. And a man who lies with an animal shall surely be put to death. You shall kill the animal, and you shall kill the animal. And a woman who comes close to any animal so that it will mate with her, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who takes his sister, whether his far's daughter or his more's daughter, and he sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgraceful act, and they shall be cut off before the eyes of the members of their people. He uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his sin. And a man who lies with a woman who has a flow, and he uncovers her nakedness, he has bared her fountain, and she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from the midst of their people. And you shall not uncover the nakedness of your more sister or your far sister, for he would be bearing his close relative, they shall bear their sin. And a man who lies with his aunt, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness, they shall bear their transgression, they shall die childless. And a man who takes his brother's wife, it is a repulsive act, he has uncovered his brother's nakedness, they shall be childless. And you shall observe all my statutes and all my ordinances, and fulfill them. Then the land to which I am bringing you, then the land to which I am bringing you to dwell therein will not vomit you out. You shall not follow the practices of the nation that I am sending away from before you, for they committed all these sins, and I was disgusted with them. So I said to you, you shall possess their land, and I shall give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Elohim your God, who has distinguished you from the peoples. And you shall distinguish between clean animals and unclean ones, and between unclean birds and clean ones. Thus you shall not make yourselves disgusting through unclean animals and birds, and any creature which crawls on the earth, that I have distinguished for you to render unclean. And you shall be holy to me, for I, Elohim, am holy, and I have distinguished you from the peoples to be mine. And a man or a woman who has the sorcery of Ov or Yidani shall surely be put to death. They shall pelt them with stones, their blood is upon themselves. Chandogya Upanishads, Kanda 4, número 16. Verily, the air who moves along is the offering, for the air moving along purifies everything, and because moving along the air purifies everything, the air is the offering. Of that offering, the mind and speech are the two ways. The Brahma priest purifies one of the two, the mind, by his mind. The other, speech, is purified through words by the Hotri priest, the Advaryu priest, and the Udgatri priest. If the Brahma priest, after the Prataranuvaka hymn has begun, and before the recitation of the Paridaniya hymn, breaks his silence and speaks, he purifies only one of the ways, speech, but the other, the mind, is injured. As a man walking on one leg or a carriage going on one wheel is injured, likewise the offering is injured. Following the injury to the offering, the offerer too is injured. By performing the defective offering, he becomes further sinful. But if the Brahma priest, after the Prataruna Vaka hymn has begun, and before the recitation of the Paridaniya hymn, does not break his silence and speak, he purifies both the ways, and neither of them is injured. As a man walking on two legs or a carriage going on two wheels goes on without obstacle, likewise the offerer goes on without obstacle. Following the success of the offering, the offerer too fares well. Having performed the offering, he becomes better. Bhagavad Gita, the Bhakti Yoga número 12. Arjuna says, those devotees who ever steadfast worship you after this fashion, and those others who worship the imperishable and unmanifest, which of these have greater knowledge of yoga? Shri Krishna says, those who have their minds fixed on me, and whoever is steadfast and endowed with supreme faith worship me, them do I hold to be perfect in yoga. And those who have completely controlled their senses and are of even mind under all conditions, and thus worship the imperishable, the ineffable, the unmanifest, the omnipresent, the incomprehensible, the immutable, the unchanging, the eternal, they, devoted to the well-being of all beings, attain me alone and none else. The task of those whose minds are set on the unmanifest is further difficult, for the ideal of the unmanifest is hard to attain for those who are embodied. But those who consecrate all their actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, and who worship me, meditating on me with single-minded concentration, to them whose minds are thus absorbed in me, verily I become ere long, O Partha, the savior from the death-fraught ocean of the world. Fix your mind on me alone, rest your thought on me alone, and in me alone you will live hereafter. Of this there is no doubt. If you are unable to fix your mind on me, O Dhananjaya, then seek to reach me by the yoga of constant practice. If you are incapable of constant practice, then devote yourself to me service. For even by rendering service to me, you will attain perfection. If you are unable to do even this, then be self-controlled. Surrender the fruit of all action and take refuge in me. Knowledge is better than practice, and meditation is better than knowledge. Renunciation of the fruit of action is better than meditation. Peace immediately follows such renunciation. He who never hates any being and is friendly and compassionate to all, who is free from the feelings of I and mine and even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing, ever content, and steady in contemplation, who is self-controlled and possessed of firm conviction, and who has consecrated his mind and understanding to me, dear to me is the one who is thus devoted to me. He by whom the world is not afflicted and who the world cannot afflict, he who is free from joy and anger, fear and anxiety, he is dear to me. He who is free from dependence, who is pure and prompt, unconcerned and untroubled, and who has renounced all undertakings, dear to me is the man who is thus devoted to me. He who rejoices not and hates not, who grieves not and desires not, who has renounced both benevolent and evil, and is full of devotion, he is dear to me. He who is alike to foe and friend, unaltered in honor and dishonor, who is the same in cold and heat, in pleasure and pain, who is free from attachment, and who is unchanged by honor and blame, who is silent, content, and with whatever he has, homeless, firm of mind, and full of devotion, that man is dear to me. Exceedingly dear to me are they who regard me as the supreme goal, and endowed with faith and devotion, follow this eternal living Dharma. Tao Te Ching, chapters 32 a 33. 32. The Tao, eternally nameless. Its simplicity, although imperceptible, cannot be treated by the world as subservient. If the sovereign can hold on to it, all will follow by themselves. Heaven and earth together in harmony will rain sweet dew. People will not need to force it. It will adjust by itself. In the beginning there were names. Names came to exist everywhere. One should know when to stop, knowing when to stop, thus avoiding danger. The existence of the Tao in the world is like streams in the valley into rivers and the ocean. Chapter 33. Those who understand others are intelligent. Those who understand themselves are enlightened. Those who overcome others have strength. Those who overcome themselves are powerful. Those who know contentment are wealthy. Those who proceed vigorously have willpower. Those who do not lose their base endure. Those who die but do not perish have longevity. Menke, chapter 10, chapter 10 of 28. There came from Chu to Tong one Tzu Qing, who gave out that he acted according to the words of Shen Nong. Coming right to his gate, he addressed the Duke Wen, saying, "A man of a distant region, I have heard that you, Prince, are practicing a benevolent government, and I wish to receive a site for a house and to become one of your people." The Duke Wen gives him a dwelling place. His disciples, amounting to several tens, all wear clothes of haircloth and make sandals of hemp and wove mats for a living. At the same time, Chen Qiang, a disciple of Chen Lang, and his younger brother Qin, with their plow handles and shears on their backs, came from Song to Teng, saying, "We have heard that you, Prince, are putting into practice the government of the ancient sages, showing that you are likewise a sage. We wish to become the subject of a sage." When Chen Cong saw Tsung Qing, he was greatly pleased with him, and abandoning entirely whatever he had learned, became his disciple. Having an interview with Min Ke, he relates to him with approbation the words of Tzu Qing, to the effect that the Prince of Teng is indeed a worthy prince. He has not yet heard, however, the true doctrines of antiquity. Now, wise and able princes should cultivate the ground equally and along with their people, and eat the fruit of their labor. They should prepare their own meals, matin and evening, whilst at the same time they carry on their government. But now the Prince of Tong has his granaries, treasuries, and arsenals, which is an oppressing of the people to nourish himself. How can he be deemed a true worthy prince? Menke says, I suppose that Tzu Tsing sows grain and eats the produce. Is it not so? It is so, was the answer. I suppose also he weaves cloth and wears his own manufacture. Is it not so? No, Tsing wears clothes of hair cloth. Does he wear a cap? He wears a cap. What kind of cap? A plain cap. Is it woven by himself? No, he gets it in exchange for grain. Why does Tzu not weave it himself? That would injure his husbandry. Does Tzu cook his food in boilers and earthenware pans, and does he plow with an iron share? Yes. Does he make those articles himself? No, he gets them in exchange for grain. Menke then says, the getting those various articles in exchange for grain is not oppressive to the potter and the founder, and the potter and the founder in their turn, in exchanging their various articles for grain, are not oppressive to the husbandman. How should such a thing be supposed? And further, why does not Tzu act the potter and founder, supplying himself with the articles which he utilizes solely from his own establishment? Why does he go confusedly dealing and exchanging with the handicraftsmen? Why does he not spare himself so much trouble? Jiang Cheng replies, the business of the handicraftsman can by no means be carried along with the business of husbandry. Menke resumes, then is it the government of the kingdom which alone can be carried on along with the practice of husbandry? Great men have their proper business, and little men have their proper business. Further, in the case of any single individual, whatever articles he can require are ready to his hand, being produced by the various handicraftsmen. If he must first make them for his own utilization, this way of doing would keep all the people running about upon the roads. Hence there is the saying, some labor with their minds and some labor with their strength. Those who labor with their minds govern others. Those who labor with their strength are governed by others. Those who are governed by others support them. Those who govern others are supported by them. This is a principle universally recognized. In the time of Yao, when the world had not yet been perfectly reduced to order, the vast waters flowing out of their channels made a universal inundation. Vegetation was luxuriant, and birds and beasts swarmed. The various kinds of grain could not be grown. The birds and beasts pressed upon men. The paths marked by the feet of beasts and prints of birds crossed one another throughout the Middle Kingdom. To Yao alone this caused anxious sorrow. He raised Shun to office, and measures to regulate the disorder were set forth. Shun committed to Yi the direction of the fire to be employed, and Yi set fire to and consumed the forest and vegetation on the mountains and in the marshes, so that the birds and beasts fled away to hide themselves. Yu separated the 9 streams, cleared the courses of the Ji and Ta, and led them all to the sea. He opened a vent also for the Ru and Han, and regulated the course of the Huai and Xi, so that they all flowed into the Jiang. When this was done, it became possible for the people of the Middle Kingdom to cultivate the ground and get food for themselves. During that time, Yu was 8 years away from his home, and though he thrice passed the door of it, he did not enter. Although he had wished to cultivate the ground, could he have done so. The minister of Agriculture taught the people to sow and reap, cultivating the 5 kinds of grain. When the 5 kinds of grain were brought to maturity, the people all obtained a subsistence. But men possess a virtuous nature, and if they are well fed, more warmly clad, and comfortably lodged, without being taught at the same time, they become almost like the beasts. This was a subject of anxious solicitude to the sage Shun, and he appointed Tzu to be minister of instruction, to teach the relations of humanity, how between father and son there should be affection, between sovereign and minister, righteousness, between husband and wife, attention to their separate functions, between old and young, a proper order, and between friends, fidelity. The high meritorious sovereign said to him, encourage them, lead them on, rectify them, straighten them, help them, give them wings, thus causing them to become possessors of themselves. Then follow this up by stimulating them and conferring benefits on them. When the sages were exercising their solicitude for the people in this way, had they leisure to cultivate the ground. What Yao felt giving him anxiety was not the getting Shun, but Shun felt giving him anxiety was not the getting Yu and Gao Yao. But he whose anxiety is about his 100 mu not being properly cultivated is a mere husbandman. The imparting by a man to others of his wealth is called kindness. The teaching others what is benevolent is called the exercise of fidelity. The finding a man who shall benefit the kingdom is called benevolence. Hence, to give the throne to another man would be easy. To find a man who shall benefit the kingdom is difficult. Kong Fuzi says, Great indeed was Yao as a sovereign. It is only heaven that is great, and only Yao corresponded to it. How vast was his virtue! The people could find no name for it. Princely indeed was Shun. How majestic was he, having possession of the kingdom, and yet seeming as if it were nothing to him. In their governing the kingdom were there no subjects on which Yao and Shun employed their minds? There were subjects, only they did not employ their minds on the cultivation of the ground. I have heard of men utilizing the doctrines of our great land to change barbarians, but I have never heard of any being changed by barbarians. Chen Lung was a native of Chu. Pleased with the doctrines of Zhao Gong and Zhao Ni, he came northwards to the Middle Kingdom and studied them. Amongst the scholars of the northern regions there was perhaps no one who excelled him. He was what you call a scholar of high and distinguished qualities. You and your brother followed him some tens of years, and when your master died, you forthwith turned away from him. Formerly, when Kong Fuzi died, after 3 years had elapsed, his disciples collected their baggage and prepared to return to their several homes, but on entering to take their leave of Zigong, as they looked towards one another, they wailed till they all lost their voices. After this they returned to their homes, but Zigong went back and built a house for himself on the altar ground, where he lived alone for another 3 years before he returned home. On another occasion, Zi Cha, Zi Zong, and Zi Yu, thinking that Yu Ro resembled the sage, wished to render to him the same observances which they had rendered to Kong Fu Zi. They tried to force the disciple of Zong to join with them, but he said, "This may not be done. What has been washed in the waters of the Jiang and Han and bleached in the autumn soleil, how glistening it is! How glistening is it! Nothing can be added to it. Now here is this shrike-tongued barbarian of the south, whose doctrines are not those of the ancient kings. You turn away from your master and become his disciple. Your conduct is different indeed from that of the philosopher Zhang. I have heard of birds leaving dark valleys to remove to lofty trees, but I have not heard of their descending from lofty trees to enter into dark valleys. The honorable songs of Lu, in the honorable songs of Lu, it is said, he smote the barbarians of the west and the north. He punished Jing and Shu. Thus Zhou Gong would be sure to smite them, and you become their disciple again. It appears that your change is not beneficial." Chen Cong says, "If Zhu's doctrine were followed, then there would not be two prices in the market, nor any deceit in the kingdom. If a boy of 5 cubits were sent to the market, no one would impose on him. Linen and silk of the same length would be of the same price. So it would be with bundles of hemp and silk, being of the same weight, with the different kinds of grain being the same in quantity, and with shoes which were of the same size." Menko replies, "It is the nature of things to be of unequal quality. Some are twice, some 5 times, some 10 times, some 100 times, some 1,000 times, some 10,000 times as valuable as others. If you reduce them all to the same standard, that must throw the kingdom into confusion. If large shoes and small shoes were of the same price, who would make them? For people to follow the doctrines of Tzu would be for them to lead one another on to practice deceit. How can they avail for the government of a state?" The Moist Yi Zi sought through Tzu Bi to see Menke. Menke says, "I indeed wish to see him, but at present I am still unwell. When I am better, I will myself go and see him. He need not come here again." Next day, Yi Zi again seeks to see Menke. Menke says, "Today I am able to see him, but if I do not correct his errors, the true principles will not be fully evident. Let me first correct him. I have heard that this Yi is a Maoist." Now Mao considers that in the regulation of funeral matters, a spare simplicity should be the rule. Yi thinks with Maoist doctrines to change the customs of the kingdom. How does it regard them as if they were wrong, and not honor them? Notwithstanding his views, Yi buried his parents in a sumptuous manner, and so he served them in the way which his doctrines discountenance. The disciple Tzu informed Yi of these remarks. Yi said, "Even according to the principles of the learned, we find that the ancients acted towards the people as if they were watching over an infant. What does this expression mean? To me it sounds that we are to love all without difference of degree, but the manifestation of love must begin with our parents." Tzu reports this reply to Menke, who says, "Now, does Yi truly think that a man's affection for the child of his brother is merely like his affection for the infant of a neighbor? What is to be approved in that expression is simply this, that if an infant crawling about is likely to fall into a well, it is no crime in the infant. Further, heaven gives birth to creatures in such a way that they have one root, and Yi makes them to have 2 roots. This is the cause of his error. And in the most ancient times there were some who did not inter their parents. When their parents died, they took them up and threw them into some water channel. Afterwards, when passing by them, they saw foxes and wild cats devouring them, and flies and gnats biting at them. This perspiration started out upon their foreheads, and they looked away, unable to bear the sight. It was not on account of other people that this perspiration flowed. The emotions of their hearts affected their faces and eyes, and instantly they went home and came back with baskets and spades and covered the bodies. If the covering them thus was indeed right, you may see that the filial son and virtuous man, in entering in a handsome manner their parents, or act according to a proper rule. The disciple Tzu informs Yi of what Minke says. Yi is thoughtful for a short time, and then he says, "He has instructed me." Digha Nikaya, the Jana Vasabha Sutta numero 18. Thus have I heard. The Exalted One was once staying in Nadika at the brick house. Now at that time the Exalted One was wont to make declarations as to the rebirth of such followers of the doctrine as had passed away in death amongst the tribes round about on every side, amongst the Kasis and Kosalans and the Vajjayans, the Malas, the Chittis and the Vamsas, the Kurus and the Panchalas, the Machas and Surasenas, saying, "Such a one has been reborn there, and such a one there, from Nadika upwards of 50 adherents who passed away in death after having completely destroyed the 5 bonds that bind people to this world, have become inheritors of the highest heavens, there to pass utterly away, thence never to return. Full 90 adherents in Nadika who have passed away in death after having completely destroyed the 3 bonds and reduced to a minimum lust, ill will, and delusion, have become once returners, and on their first return to this world shall make an end of pain. Over 500 adherents of Nadika who have passed away in death after having completely destroyed the 3 bonds and become converted cannot be reborn in any state of woe, but are assured of attaining to the insight of the higher stages of the path." Now the adherents of Nadika, when they heard these revelations, were pleased, gladdened, and filled with joy and happiness at these solutions by the Exalted One of the problems that had been put to him. Now the Venerable Ananda heard of these declarations made by the Exalted One and of the satisfaction felt by the adherents at Nadika, and this idea occurred to him. But there were also adherents in many of them, and of long religious experience, who have passed away in death. One might think that Anga and Now the Venerable Ananda heard of these declarations made by the Exalted One and of the satisfaction felt by the adherents at Nadika, and this idea occurred to him. But there were also adherents in Magadha, many of them, and of long religious experience, who had passed away in death. One might think that Anga and Magadha were void of adherents who have passed away in death, for they too had entire faith in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. They had fulfilled the virtuous precepts, and yet concerning them, since they passed away in death, nothing has been declared by the Exalted One. It were surely a beneficial thing to evoke a response as to them, for much folk would believe and would hereafter enter into bliss. Then too there was Sanir Bibisara, king of Magadha, righteous and ruling righteously, benign to priests and laymen, to townfolk and countryfolk. His fame are men verily spreading abroad, saying, "Dead is our so righteous king of righteous rule, who made us so happy. How well have we lived in the kingdom of that righteous king." Now he too had entire faith in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and fulfilled those virtuous precepts. And people verily have said, "Sanir Bibisara, king of Magadha, who up to the day of his death was given to honors of the Exalted One, is dead." Concerning him who has passed away in death, nothing has been declared by the Exalted One. It were surely a beneficial thing to evoke a response as to him, for much folk would believe and would hereafter enter into bliss. Further, the Exalted One attained supreme insight in Magadha. Now, where that took place, how should there be no declaration from the Exalted One concerning adherents in Magadha who have passed away in death? If the Exalted One declare nothing concerning them, they will be hurt. And since they would be hurt, how can the Exalted One keep silence? Having thus pondered alone and privately concerning the Megadese adherents, the Venerable Ananda rose up the next matin and came into the presence of the Exalted One, and being come, saluted him and sat down on one side. And so sitting, he told the Exalted One all that he had heard and thought. And when he had made an end of thus speaking before the Exalted One, he rose from his seat, saluted the Exalted One right wise, and went away. Then the Exalted One, not long after the Venerable Ananda had gone away, robed himself in the matin, and taking a bowl and cloak, went forth for alms to Nadika. And when he had walked through Nadika for alms after his meal, when he had come back again from his round for alms and bathed his feet, he entered the brick house and sat down on a seat made ready, thinking over and cogitating upon and concentrating his whole mind on the Magadese adherents, saying to himself, I'll find out their future, their fate after this life, whither these benevolent men are bound, what their destiny is. And he, the Exalted One, saw the Magadese adherents, whether they were bound, and what their destiny was. Then at eventide, the Exalted One, arising from his meditation, went out of the brick house, and sat down on a mat spread in the shade behind the lodging place. Then the Venerable Ananda came into the presence of the Exalted One, saluted him, and sat down on one side. Thus seated, he said to the Exalted One, My master, the Exalted One, looks serene, his complexion shines forth, as it were, owing to the tranquility of his faculties. Has the master of the Exalted One spent a pleasant day? When you had made that speech to me, Ananda, concerning the Magadese adherents, and had gone away, I, when I had gone to Nadika for alms, had dined, returned, bathed my feet, and entered the brick house, sat me down on a mat spread there, thought over, cogitated upon, and concentrated my whole mind on those Magadese adherents, resolving to know their future, their fate after this life, whither these benevolent men were bound, what their destiny would be. And I saw, Ananda, those Magadese adherents, whither the benevolent men were bound, what their destiny would be. Thereupon an invisible spirit made himself heard, saying, I am Jana Vasabha, O Exalted One. I am Jana Vasabha, O Welcome One. Now do you allow, Ananda, that you have ever heard of anyone bearing such a name as Jana Vasabha? I confess, Master, that I have never heard of one bearing such a name as Jana Vasabha. Further, Master, on hearing such a name as Jana Vasabha, I am thrilled with excitement, and I fancy it can be no ordinary spirit who bears such a name as Jana Vasabha. After those words had been spoken, Ananda, the spirit himself, appeared before me, a splendid presence. And he made a second utterance, I am Bimbisara, O Exalted One. I am Bimbisara, O Welcome One. 'Tis now the 7th time, Master, that I am reborn into the communion of the great King Vasavana. Deceased as a human being, as a human king, I am in heaven, become a non-human king. Hence 7, thence 7, in all 14 rebirths. So much I know of lives I've lived in the long past. Long, Master, have I, who am destined not to be reborn in states of woe, been conscious of that destiny, and now is there desire in me to become a once returner. Wonderful is this, marvelous is this, that you, the Venerable Spirit Jana Vasabha, tell me, long have I, who am destined not to be reborn in states of woe, been conscious of that destiny, and again, now is there desire in me to become a once returner. How has it come about that Jana Vasabha, the Venerable Spirit, recognizes his attainment to a distinction so splendid? No wise save through thy word, O Exalted One, no wise save through thy word, O Blessed One. From the moment when I had gone over in absolute and entire faith to the Exalted One, from that moment, Master, did I, who am destined not to be reborn in states of woe, been conscious of that destiny, and now I desire to become a once returner. Now, Master, I have been sent on a message concerning some business by King Vasavana to King Varulaka, and on my way I saw the Exalted One entering the brick house and sitting down to think over, to cogitate upon, to concentrate his whole mind upon the deceased Magadese adherents, and the resolve to know their future, their fate after this life, whither the benevolent men are bound, what their destiny is. Now it was only the moment before, Master, that I had heard face to face and had understood from his own mouth from King Vasavana how he had said to his assembly whither those benevolent men were bound and what their destiny was. So it occurred to me that I would visit the Exalted One, and I would announce it to him. These, Master, are the 2 reasons why I came forth to visit the Exalted One. In days gone by, Master, in days long gone by, it came to pass that on the night of the 4th of the 15th day, at the full moon, in the month for entering upon retreat, the month of Asali, The whole of the angels in the retinue of the 33 were assembled together, seated in the hall of the benevolent council, and around them on every side a vast celestial company was seated, and at the four quarters of the firmament sat the four great kings. There was Datarata, king of the east, seated facing the west, presiding over his host; Virulaka, king of the south, seated facing the north, presiding over his host; Virupaka, king of the west, seated facing the east, presiding over his host; and Vesavana, king of the north, seated facing south, presiding over his host. Whenever Master, all the angels in the heaven of the 33 are assembled and seated in their hall of benevolent council, with a vast celestial company seated around them on every side, and with the four great kings at the four quarters of the firmament. This is the order of the seats of the four. After that come our seats, and those angels, Master, who had been recently reborn in the hosts of the 33, because they had lived the higher life under the Exalted One, they outshone the other angels in appearance and in glory. And thereat, Master, the 33 were glad and of benevolent cheer, were filled with joy and happiness, saying, Verily, sirs, the celestial hosts are waxing, the titanic hosts are waning. Now Master Saka, ruler of the angels, when he saw the satisfaction felt by the retinue of the 3 and 30, expressed his approval in these verses. The 3 and 30, verily both angels and Master rejoice, Tathagata they honor in the cosmic law sublime, whereas they see the angels new risen, beautiful and bright, who erst the holy life had lived under the happy one, the mighty sages here, who had won to higher truth, come hither, and in glory and all other angels outshine. This they behold right gladly, both Master and 33, Tathagata they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. Hereat, Master, the 3 and 30 angels were even further abundantly glad and of benevolent cheer, and filled with joy and happiness, saying, Verily, the celestial hosts are waxing, the titanic hosts are waning. Then, Master, concerning the object for which the 3 and 30 angels were assembled in their seats in the hall of benevolent council, they took counsel and deliberated about it, and with respect to that object the four great kings were addressed, and with respect to that object the four great kings were admonished, standing by their seats. The uttered word that admonished the kings accepted there, serene in mind and calm they stood, each at his place. Then, Master, a splendid light came forth out of the north, and a radiance shone around, surpassing the holy glory of the angels. And Master did Saka, the king of the angels, say to the retinue of the 33, According, friends, to the signs now seen, the light that ariseth, the radiance that appeareth, Brahma will be manifested. For this is the herald sign of the manifestation of Brahma, to wit, when the light ariseth and the glory shineth, the portents now are seen, so Brahma draweth nigh. For this is Brahma's sign, this glorious splendor vast. Then, Master, the angels of the 33 sat down in their own places, saying, We will ascertain what shall be the result of this radiance. When we have recognized it, we will go to meet him. The four great kings also sat down in their own places, saying the same. And when they had heard this, the angels of the 3 and 30 were altogether agreed, We will ascertain what shall be the result of this radiance. When we have recognized it, we will go to meet him. When Master Brahma Sanam Kumara appears before the 33 angels, he appears as a relatively gross personality which he has specially created. For Brahma's usual appearance is not sufficiently materialized to impress the vision of the 33 angels. And Master, when Brahma Sanam Kumara appears before the 33 angels, he outshines the other angels in color and in glory. Just, Master, as a figure made of gold outshines the human frame, so when Brahma Sanam Kumara appears before the 33 angels, does he outshine the other angels in color and in glory. And when Master Brahma Sanam Kumara appears before the 33 angels, there is no angel in all that assembly that salutes him or rises up or invites him to be seated. They all sit in silence with clasped hands and cross-legged, thinking of whichever angel Brahma Sanam Kumara now desires anything, he will sit down on that angel's divan. And by whichever angel he does sit down, that angel is filled with a sublime satisfaction, a sublime happiness, even as a Kshatriya king newly anointed and crowned is filled with a sublime satisfaction, a sublime happiness. So Master Brahma Sanam Kumara, having created a grosser personality, become in appearance as the youth five crest, manifested himself thus to the angels of the company of the 33. Rising up into the air, he sat down cross-legged in the sky, just, Master, as easily as a strong man might sit down cross-legged on a well-spread divan or a smooth portion of ground. Even so did Brahma Sanam Kumara, rising up into the air, sit down cross-legged in the sky. And seeing the tranquility of the angels of the company of the 33, he expressed his pleasure in these verses. The 3 and 30, verily both angels and master rejoice, Tathagata, they honor, and the cosmic law sublime, whereas they see these angels new, risen, beautiful, and bright, who erst the holy life had lived under the happy one, the mighty sages, hearers who had won to the higher truth, come hither, and in glory all the other angels outshine. This they behold right gladly, both master and 33, Tathagata, they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. This was the matter of Brahma Sanam Kumar's speech, and he spoke it with a voice of eightfold characteristics, and a voice that was fluent, intelligible, sweet, audible, continuous, distinct, deep, and resonant. And whereas Master Brahma Sanam Kumara communicated with that assembly by his voice, the sound thereof did not penetrate beyond the assembly. He whose voice has these 8 characteristics is said to be Brahma-voiced. Then Master Brahma Sanam Kumara, having created 33 shapes of himself, sitting each on the couch of each of the 33 angels, thus addressed the angels. Now what think ye, my master angels 30 and 3? Inasmuch as the Exalted One hath acted for the well-being of the peoples, for the happiness of the peoples, out of pity for the world, for the advantage, the well-being, for the happiness of angels and men, they, whoever they be, sirs, who have taken the Buddha for the refuge, the Dharma for the refuge, and the Sangha for the refuge, they on the dissolution of the body after death have been reborn, some of them into the communion of the Paranimita Vasavati angels, some of them into the communion of the Tusita angels, or of the crowds of the retinue of Yama, or of the 30 and 3 angels, or of the 4 great kings. Those who fill the number of those lowest group, they go to fill the number of the Gandharva host. This was the matter of Brahma Sanam Kumara's speech, and he spoke it with such a voice that each angel fancied, he who is on my divan, he alone hath spoken. Speaks but one Brahma shape, the 33 all speak, silently sits one shape, they all in silence sit. When all the 3 and 30 with their king to think, pot, he is who is on my couch, 'tis he alone that spake. Then Master Brahma Sanam Kumar took himself to one end of the hall, and then sitting down on the divan of Saka, master of the angels, addressed the 33 angels. Now what think ye, my master angels 30 and 3, of the completeness wherewith the Exalted One, who knows, who sees, the Arahant Buddha Supreme, hath revealed the 4 ways to Iti, for the development thereof, for proficiency therein, for the elaboration thereof, which are they? In the first place, a brother practices that way which is compounded of concentration and effort with desire. In the second place, a brother practices that way which is compounded of concentration and effort with energy. In the third place, a brother practices that way which is compounded of concentration and effort with a dominant idea. In the fourth place, a brother practices that way which is compounded of concentration and effort with investigation. These, sir, are the 4 ways to Iti, revealed by the Exalted One, who knows, who sees, the Arahant Buddha Supreme, for the development thereof, for proficiency therein, for the elaboration thereof. Now those recluses and Brahmas who in past times have enjoyed Iti in one or further of its forms, they have all done so through practice and improvement in just these. And those recluses and Brahmas who in future times will enjoy Iti in one or further of its forms, they will all do so through practice and improvement in just these. And those recluses and Brahmins who are at the present time enjoy Iti in one or further of its forms, they also do so through practice and improvement in just these. Do ye see, my master angels 30 and 3, in me a potency of Iti like that? Yes, Brahma. I too, sir, through practice and improvement in just these to Iti, have acquired such power and potency therein. Such was the matter of Brahma Sanam Kumara's speech, and having thus spoken, he addressed the 33 angels. Now what think ye, my master angels 30 and 3, of the 3 avenues for arriving at bliss manifested by the Exalted One, who knows, who sees, by the Arhat Buddha Supreme, which are the 3? In the first place, sirs, take a brother who is living in indulgence in the pleasures of sense in association with bad conditions. He on a certain occasion hears the Aryan truth, studies it, and acquires both the main and the subsidiary doctrines. Having come to this hearing, studying, and acquisition, he takes to a life detached from the pleasures of sense, not associated with bad conditions. Under these circumstances, he experiences ease, and further than ease, happiness. Just as the feeling of complacency may develop into gladness, so does for him, under those circumstances, first ease arise, and then further than ease, happiness. This is The Sirs is the place for arriving at bliss manifested by the Exalted One, Buddha Supreme. In the next place, Sirs, take a brother in whom the grosser conditions precedent to action, speech, and thought are not entirely calmed down. He, on a certain occasion, hears the Aryan truth preached, studies it, and acquires both the main and subsidiary doctrines. Having arrived at this hearing, studying, and acquisition, the grosser conditions precedent to action, speech, and thought in him become entirely calmed down. And from this ease is experienced, and then further than ease, happiness. Just as a feeling of complacency may develop into gladness, so does for him, under those circumstances, first ease arise, and then further than ease, happiness. This, sirs, is the place for arriving at bliss manifested by the Exalted One, Buddha Supreme. In the third place, sirs, take the case of a brother who does not truly know what this is benevolent. Does not truly know that this is benevolent, this is bad, this is wrong, this is not wrong, this is to be followed, this is to be avoided, this is base, this is excellent, this is of mixed dark and bright quality. He on a certain occasion hears the Aryan truth, studies it, and acquires the main and subsidiary doctrines. Having arrived at this hearing, study, and acquisition, he now truly knows that this is benevolent, he truly knows that this is bad, this is wrong, this is not wrong, this is to be followed, this is to be avoided, this is basic, this is excellent, this is of mixed dark and bright quality. For him thus knowing, thus seeing, ignorance is put away, wisdom has arisen. From this extinction of ignorance, from the rising of wisdom, a sense of ease arises, and then further than ease, happiness. Just as a feeling of complacency may develop into gladness, so does for him, under these circumstances, first ease arise, and then further than ease, happiness. This serves is now for the place for the arriving at bliss manifested by the Exalted One who knows, who sees, Arahat Buddha Supreme. These, sirs, are the three avenues for arriving at bliss manifested by the Exalted One who knows, who sees, the Arahat Buddha Supreme. On this matter, Master did Brahma Sanam Kumara speak, and having so spoken, he addressed the 33 angels. Now what think ye, my Master Angels, 30 and 3, of the completeness wherewith the Exalted One who knows, who sees, the Arahat Buddha Supreme hath revealed the four inceptions of mindfulness for attaining to the benevolent? And which are the four? Take, sirs, a brother who abides subjectively watchful over the body, ardent, self-possessed, mindful that he may discern the unhappiness arising from coveting the things of the world. So, subjectively watchful, he attains to right concentration and right calm. He, having right concentration and right calm in his physical being, evokes knowledge of and insight into all other physical forms external to himself. So again he abides subjectively watchful over his feelings, over his heart, over his ideas. Ardent, self-possessed, mindful that he may discern the unhappiness arising from coveting the things of the world. So subjectively watchful he attains to right concentration and right calm. He having right concentration and right calm in his feelings, his heart, his ideas, evokes knowledge of and insight into the ideas of others external to himself. These, sirs, are the four inceptions of deliberation for attaining to benevolence completely revealed by the Exalted One who knows, who sees, the Arahat Buddha Supreme. On this matter did Brahma Sanam Kamara speak, and having spoken, he addressed the 33 angels. Now what think ye, my Master Angels, 30 and 3, of the completeness wherewith the Exalted One who knows, who sees, the Arahat Buddha Supreme hath revealed the 7 requisites of intellectual concentration for practice of right rapture, for perfecting of rapture, which are the 7: right views, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness. That concentration of thought, sirs, which is prepared by these 7 factors, is called the noble right rapture, together with its basis, together with its requisites. Right intention suffices to maintain right views, right speech suffices to maintain right intention, right action suffices to maintain right speech, right livelihood suffices to maintain right action, right effort suffices to maintain right livelihood, right mindfulness suffices to maintain right effort, right rapture suffices to maintain right mindfulness, right knowledge suffices to maintain right rapture, right freedom suffices to maintain right knowledge. If anyone uttering right speech, sirs, were to say, well hath the Exalted One proclaimed the Dharma that in this life beareth fruit, that avails not for a time only, that welcometh every one, that leadeth away and onward, that each one who hath intelligence may of and by himself understand. Then in saying, wide open are the portals to nirvana, for, sirs, whosoever has unwavering faith in the Buddha, unwavering faith in the Dharma, and unwavering faith in the Sangha, and is endowed with the virtues pleasing to the noble ones, and whatsoever new angels have appeared in our midst, led hither by the law, to wit, further than 24 lakhs of disciples, now dead and gone, these all through complete destruction of the 3 bonds have become converted, and cannot be reborn in any state of woe, but are assured of attaining to the insight of the highest stages of the path, Further, there are here once returners, but of that other breed to tell, of higher merit. Lo, the tal of higher might. Lo, the tale. I cannot reckon, lest perchance I should offend against the Dharma. This master was the matter of Brahma Sanam Kumara's speech, and concerning what he had spoken, the reflection arose in the mind of the great king Vasavana. Wonderful, truly is it, sirs, marvelous is it, that there should be so glorious a teacher, so glorious a proclaiming of the Dharma, and that such glorious avenues to distinction should be made known. Then Master Brahma Sanam Kumara's discerning this reflection in the mind of the great king Vasavana, spake thus to him: Now what thinks my master, the great king Vasavana? There both has been in past times a teacher so glorious, a proclaiming of the Dharma so glorious, a making known such glorious avenues to distinction, and there will be also in the future times a teacher so glorious, a proclaiming of the Dharma so glorious, a making known such glorious avenues to distinction. This was the matter whereof Brahma Sanam Kumara spoke to the 33 angels. And this matter the great King Vasavana, when he had in his own person heard it and assented to it, reported to his own following. In this matter, the spirit Jana Vasava, when he had in his own person heard it so reported by Vasavana, reported to the Exalted One. And this matter, the Exalted One, when he had in his own person heard it and assented to it, and had also intuitively discerned it, and reported to Ananda. In this matter, the Venerable Ananda, when he had in his own person heard it from the Exalted One and assented to it, reported to the brethren in the sisterhood, to believing laymen and laywomen. And the system waxed influential and prosperous, and expanded and broadened with the numbers that joined. So well was it spread abroad amongst men. The Dhammapada, Chittavaga numero 3. Just as a fletcher straightens an arrow shaft, even so the discerning man straightens his mind. So fickle and unsteady, so difficult to guard. As a fish when pulled out of water and cast on land throbs and quivers, even so is this mind agitated. Hence should one abandon the realm of Mara. Wonderful indeed is it to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift and seizing whatever it desires. A tame mind brings happiness. Let the discerning man guard the mind, so difficult to detect and extremely subtle, seizing whatever it desires. A guarded mind brings happiness. Dwelling in the cave of the heart, the mind without form wanders distantly and alone. Those who subdue this mind are liberated from the bonds of Mara. Wisdom never becomes perfect in one whose mind is not steadfast, who knows not the benevolent teaching, and whose faith wavers. There is no fear for an awakened one whose mind is not sodden by lust, nor afflicted by hate, and who has gone beyond both merit and demerit. Recognizing that this body is as fragile as a clay pot, and fortifying this mind with a well-fortified city, fight out Mara with the sword of wisdom, then guarding the conquest, remain unattached. Ere long, alas, this body will lie upon the earth, unheeded and lifeless, like a useless log. Whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy, or a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind inflicts on oneself a greater harm. Neither more far nor any other relative can do one greater benefit than one's own well-directed mind. Gospels, Luke 15:16. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be further rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who did not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Jesus continued, There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set out off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who had sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son, and make me like one of your hired servants." So he got up and went to his father. But whilst he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, You are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Jesus told his disciples there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. The manager said to himself, What shall I do now? My master has taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each of his master's debtors. He asked the first, How much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, How much do you owe? And 1,000 bushels of wheat. He replied. He told him, Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are further shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, utilize worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy in someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. The Pharisees who loved money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. He said to them, You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts. What people value as highly is detestable in God's sight. The law and the prophets were proclaimed until John. Since that time, the benevolent news of the sovereignty of God is being preached, and everyone is forcing their way into it. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the least stroke of a pen to drop out of the law. Anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery, and the man who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was in torment, he looked up and saw Abraham far distantly away with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, Far Abraham, have pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire. But Abraham replied, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your benevolent things, while Lazarus received bad things. Now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us. He answered, Then I beg you, Far, send Lazarus to my family. For I have 5 brothers, let him warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment. Abraham replied, They have Moshe and the prophets, let them listen to them. No, for Abraham, he said, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. He said to him, If they do not listen to Moshe and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead. Quran, Surah Yasin, número 36. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Yasin. By the Quran, full of wisdom, thou art indeed one of the apostles, on a straight way. It is a revelation sent down by Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful, in order that thou mayest admonish the people whose fathers had received no admonition, and who therefore remain heedless of the signs of Allah. The word is proved true against the greater part of them, for they do not believe. We have put yokes around their necks right up to their chins, so that their heads are forced up and they cannot see. And we have put a bar in front of them and a bar behind them, and further we have covered them up so that they cannot see. The same is it to them whether thou admonish them or thou do not admonish them, they will not believe. Thou canst but admonish such a one as follows the message and fears the Lord most gracious, unseen. Give such a one therefore benevolent tidings and of forgiveness and a reward most generous. Verily we shall give life to the dead, and we record that which they send before and that which they leave behind, and all things that we have we taken account in a clear book of evidence. Set forth to them by way of a parable the story of the companions of the city. Behold, there came apostles to it. When we first sent to them 2 apostles, they rejected them, but we strengthened them with a 3rd. They said, Truly we have been sent on a mission to you. The people said, Ye are men like ourselves, and Allah most gracious sends no sort of revelation. Ye do nothing but lie. They said, Our Lord doth know that we have been sent on a mission to you, and our duty is only to proclaim the clear message. The people said, For us we augur an evil omen from you. If you desist not, we will certainly stone you, and a grievous punishment indeed will be inflicted on you by us. They said, Your evil omens are with yourselves. Deem ye this an evil omen, if ye are admonished? Nay, but ye are people transgressing all bounds. Then there came running from the furthest part of the city a man, saying, O my people, obey the apostles. Obey those who ask no reward of you for themselves, and who have themselves received guidance. It would not be reasonable in me if I did not serve Allah, who created me, and to whom ye shall all be brought back. Shall I take other deities besides Allah? If Allah most gracious should intend some adversity for me, of no utilization whatever will be their intercession for me, nor can they deliver me. I would indeed, if I were to do so, be in manifest error. For me, I have faith in the Lord of you all. Listen then to me. It was said, Enter thou the garden. He said, Ah me, would that my people knew what I know. For that my Lord has granted me forgiveness, and has enrolled me amongst those held in honor. And we sent not down against his people after him any host from heaven, nor was it needful for us so to do. It was no further than a single mighty blast, and behold, they were like ashes quenched and silent. And alas for my servants, there comes not an apostle to them, but they mock him. See they not how many generations before them we destroyed? Not to them will they return, but each one of them all will be brought before us for judgment. A sign for them is the earth that is dead. We do give it life, and produce grain therefrom, of which ye do eat. And we produce therein orchards with date palms, and vines, and we cause springs to gush forth therein, that they may enjoy the fruits of this artistry. It was not their hands that made this. Will they not then give thanks? Glory to Allah, who created and impairs all things that the earth produces, as well as their own humankind and other things of which they have no knowledge. And a sign for them is the night. We withdraw therefrom the day, and behold, they are plunged in darkness. And the soleil runs his course for a period determined for him. That is the decree of Allah, the exalted in might, the all-knowing. And the moon we have measured for her mansions to traverse till she returns like the old and withered lower part of a date stalk. It is not permitted to the soleil to catch up to the moon, nor can the night outstrip the day. Each just swims along its own orbit according to law. And a sign for them is that we bore their race through the flood in the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. If it were our will, we could drown them. Then would there be no helper to hear their cry, nor could they be delivered, except by way of mercy from us, and by way of world convenience to serve them for a time. When they are told, fear ye that which is before you, and that which will be after you, in order that ye may receive mercy, they turn back. Not a sign comes to them from amongst the signs of their Lord, but they turn away therefrom. And when they are told, spend ye of the bounties with which Allah has provided you, the unbelievers say to those who believe, shall we then feed those whom, if Allah had so willed, Allah would have fed? Allah, ye are in nothing but manifest error. Further they say, when will this promise come to pass, if what ye say is true? They will not have to wait for aught but a single blast. It will seize them whilst they are yet disputing amongst themselves. No chance will they then have by will to dispose of their affairs, nor to return to their own people. The trumpet shall be sounded, when behold, from the sepulchres men will rush forth to their Lord. They will say, ah, woe to us, who hath raised us up from our beds of repose. A voice will say, this is what Allah most gracious had promised, and true was the word of the apostles. There will be no further than a single blast, when lo, they will all be brought up before us. Then on that day not a soul will be wronged in the least, and ye shall but be repaid the meeds of your past deeds. Verily the companions of the gardens shall that day have joy in all that they do. They and their associates will be in groves of cool shade, reclining on thrones of dignity. Every fruit enjoyment will be there for them. They shall have whatever they call for. Peace, a word of salutation from a Lord most merciful. And O ye in sin, get ye apart this day. Did I not enjoin on you, O ye children of Adam, that ye should not worship Satan, for that he was to you an enemy avowed, and that ye should worship me, for that this was the straight way. But he did lead astray a great multitude of you. Did ye not then understand? This is the hell of which ye were repeatedly warned. Embrace ye the fire this day, for that ye persistently rejected truth. That day shall we set a seal on their mouths, but their hands will speak to us, and their feet bear witness to all that they did. If it had been our will, we could surely have blotted out their eyes. Then should they have run about groping for the path, but how could they have seen? And if it had been our will, we could have transformed them to remain in their places. Then should they have been unable to move about, nor could they have returned after error. If we grant long life to any, we cause him to be reversed in nature, will they not then understand? We have not instructed the Prophet in poetry, nor is it meet for him. This is no less than a message and a Quran making things clear, that it may give admonition to any who are alive, and that the charge may be proved against those who reject truth. See they not that it is we who have created for them amongst the things which our hands have fashioned cattle which are under their dominion, and that we have subjected them to their utilization. Of them some do carry them, and some they eat, and they have other benefits from them besides, and they get milk to drink. Will they not then be grateful? Yet they take for worship deities other than Allah, hoping that they might be helped. They have not the power to help them, but will they be brought up before our judgment seat as a troop to be condemned? Let not their speech then grieve thee. Verily we know what they hide as well as what they disclose. Doth not man see that it is we who created him from sperm? Yet behold, he stands forth as an open adversary. And he makes comparisons for us and forgets his own origin and creation. He says, who can give life to dry bones and decompose ones at that? Say, Allah will give them life who created them for the first time, for Allah is well versed in every kind of creation. The same who produces for you fire out of the green tree, when behold ye kindle therewith your own fires. It is not Allah who created the heavens and the earth, able to create the like thereof? Yea, indeed, for Allah is the Creator supreme, a skill and knowledge infinite. For Allah is the Creator supreme, of skill and knowledge infinite. Verily, when Allah intends a thing, Allah's command is be, and it is. So glory to Allah, in whose hands is the dominion of all things, and to Allah will ye be all brought back. Kitab Yaqdas, verse 172 a 190. We of a certainty have had no purpose in this earthly realm save to make God manifest and to reveal God's sovereignty. Sufficient unto me is God for a witness. We of a certainty have had no intent in the celestial sovereignty but to exalt God's cause and glorify God's praise. Sufficient unto me is God for protector. We of a certainty have had no desire in the dominion on high except to extol God and what hath been sent down by God. Sufficient unto me is God for a helper. Happy are ye, O ye the learned ones in Baha, by the Lord. Ye are the billows of the most mighty ocean, the stars of the firmament of glory, the standards of triumph waving betwixt earth and heaven. Ye are the manifestations of steadfastness amidst men, and the day springs of divine utterance to all that dwell on earth. Well is it with him that turneth unto you, and woe betide the froward. This day it behoveth whoso hath quaffed the mystic wine of everlasting life from the hands of the loving kindness of the Lord his God, the merciful, to pulsate even as the throbbing artery in the body of mankind, that through him may be quickened the world and every crumbling bone. O people of the world, when the mystic dove will have winged its flight from its sanctuary of praise and sought its distant off goal, its hidden habitation, refer ye whatsoever ye understand not in the book to him who hath branched from this mighty stock. O pen of the Most High, move thou upon the tablet of the bidding of thy Lord, at the bidding of thy Lord, the Creator of the heavens, and tell of the time when God, who is the dayspring of divine unity, purposed to direct God's steps towards the school of transcendent oneness. Haply the pure in heart may gain thereby a glimpse, be it as small as a needle's eye, of the mysteries of thy Lord, the Almighty, the Omniscient, that lie concealed behind the veil. Say, we indeed set foot within the school of inner meaning and explanation when all created things were unaware. We saw the words sent down by God, who is the all-merciful, and we accepted the verses of God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting, which God presented unto which God presented unto us, and hearkened unto that which God had solemnly affirmed in the tablet. This we assuredly did behold, and assembled to God's wish through our behest, for truly we are potent to command. O people of the Bayan, we verily set foot within the school of God when ye lay slumbering, and we perused the tablet when ye were fast asleep. By the one true God we read the tablet ere it was revealed, whilst ye were unaware, and we had perfect knowledge of the book when ye were yet unborn. These words are to your measure, not to God's. To this testifieth that which is enshrined within God's knowledge, if ye be of them that comprehend, and to this the tongue of the Almighty doth bear witness, if ye be of those who understand. I swear by God, were we to lift the veil, ye would be dumbfounded. Take heed that ye dispute not idly concerning the Almighty and God's cause, for lo, God hath appeared amongst you, invested with a revelation so great as to encompass all things, whether of the past or of the future. Were we to address our theme by speaking in the language of the inmates of the sovereignty, we would say, in truth, God created that school ere God created heaven and earth, and we entered it before the letters B and E were joined and knit together. Such is the language of our servants in our sovereignty. Consider what the tongue of the dwellers of our exalted dominion would utter, for we have taught them our knowledge and have revealed to them whatever had lain hidden in God's wisdom. Imagine then what the tongue of might and grandeur would utter in God's all-glorious abode. This is not a cause which may be made a plaything for your idle fancies, nor is it a field for the foolish and faint of heart. By God, this is the arena of insight and detachment, of vision and upliftment, where none may spur on their charges save the valiant horsemen of the merciful, who have severed all attachment to the world of being. These truly are they that render God victorious on earth, and are the dawning places of God's sovereign might amidst mankind. Beware lest aught that hath been revealed in the Bayan should keep you from your Lord the most compassionate. God is my witness that the Bayan was sent down for no other purpose than to celebrate my praise. Did ye but know, in it the pure in heart will find only the fragrance of my love, only my name that overshadoweth all that seeth and is seen. Say, turn ye, O people, unto that which hath proceeded from my most exalted pen. Should ye inhale therefrom the fragrance of God, set not yourselves against God, nor deny yourselves a portion of God's gracious favor and God's manifold bestowals. Thus doth your Lord admonish you. God verily is the counselor, the omniscient. Whatsoever ye understand not in the Bayan, ask it of God your Lord and the Lord of your forefathers. Should God so desire, God will expound for you that which is revealed therein, and disclose to you the pearls of sacred knowledge and wisdom that lie concealed within the ocean of its words. God verily is the supreme over all names. No deity is there but God, to help imperil the self-subsisting. The world's equilibrium hath been upset through the vibrating influence of this new world order. Mankind's ordered life hath been revolutionized through the agency of this wondrous system, the like of which living being eyes have never witnessed. Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words, that ye may unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hid in its depths. Take heed that ye do not vacillate in your determination to embrace the truth of this cause, a cause through which the potentialities of the might of God have been revealed, and God's sovereignty established. With faces beaming with joy, hasten ye unto God. This is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future. Let him that seeketh attain it, and as to him that hath refused to seek it, verily God is self-sufficient above any need of God's creatures. Say, this is the infallible balance which the hand of God is holding, in which all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth are weighed, and their fate determined, if ye be of them that believe and recognize this truth. This is the most great testimony by which the validity of every proof through the ages hath been established, would that ye might be assured thereof. Say, through it the poor have been enriched, the learned enlightened, and the seekers enabled to ascend unto the presence of God. Beware lest ye make it a cause of dissension amongst you. Be ye as firmly settled as the immovable mountain in the cause of your Lord, the mighty, the loving. Say, O source of perversion, abandon thy wilful blindness, and speak forth the truth amidst the people. I swear by God that I have wept for thee to see thee following thy selfish passions, and renouncing God who fashioned thee and brought thee into being. Call to mind the tender mercy of thy Lord, and remember how we nurtured thee by day and by night for service to the cause. Fear God, and be thou of the truly repentant. Granted that the people were confused about thy station, is it conceivable that thou thyself art similarly confused? Tremble before thy Lord, and recall the days when thou didst stand before our throne, and didst write down the verses that we dictated unto thee, verses sent down by God, the omnipotent protector, the Lord of might and power. Beware lest the fire of thy presumptuousness debar thee from attaining to God's holy court. Turn unto God, and fear not because of thy deeds. God in truth forgiveth whomsoever God desireth, as a bounty on God's part. No deity is there but God, the ever forgiving, the all bounteous. We admonish thee solely for the sake of God. Shouldst thou accept this counsel, thou wilt have acted to thine own behoof, and shouldst thou reject it, thy Lord verily can well dispense with thee, and will with all those who in manifest delusion have followed thee. Behold, God hath laid hold of him who led thee astray. Return unto God, humble, submissive, and lowly. Verily God will put away from thee thy sins, for thy Lord of a certainty is the forgiving, the mighty, the all merciful. This is the counsel of God. Would that thou mightest heed it. This is the bounty of God. Would that thou mightest receive it. This is the utterance of God, if only thou wouldst apprehend it. This is the treasure of God, if only thou couldst understand. This is a book which hath become the lamp of the eternal unto the world, and God's straight undeviating path amidst the peoples of the earth. Say, this is the dayspring of divine knowledge, if ye be of them that understand, and the dawning place of God's commandments, if ye be of those who comprehend. Burden not an animal with further than it can bear. We truly have prohibited such treatment through a most binding interdiction in the book. Be ye the embodiments of justice and fairness amidst all creation. Should anyone unintentionally take another's life, it is incumbent upon him to render to the family of the deceased an indemnity of 100 miktals of gold. Observe ye that which hath been enjoined upon you in this tablet, and be not of those who overstep its limits. O members of parliaments throughout the world, select ye a single language for the utilization of all on earth, and adopt ye likewise a common script. God verily maketh plain for you that which shall benefit you, and enable you to be independent of others. God of a truth is the most bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-informed. This will be the cause of unity, could ye but comprehend it, and the greatest instrument for promoting harmony and civilization, would that ye might understand. We have appointed 2 signs for the coming of age of the human race. The first, which is the most firm foundation, we have set down in other of our tablets, whilst the second hath been revealed in this wondrous book. It hath been forbidden you to smoke opium. We truly have prohibited this practice through a most binding interdiction in the book. Should anyone partake thereof, assuredly he is not of me. Fear God, O ye endued with understanding. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim. Allahu Abham. Dao Ke Dao Fei Chong Dao Ming Ke Ming Fei Chong Ming Ja Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in cele sanctificato nomen tuum. Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch atah Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam asher katzanu b'mitzotav v'tzivan l'sok b'dvar Torah. Amen. Baruch atah Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam barei periagafe. Amen. Kyrie eleison sevamastu savajikatehi sabe sata bavontu sukitata fagabium. Aquaba upendo na amanim fikiri neselami chinta dam per me lebov me womenchakam ubuntu shubana fikitka. Shishin, como se nida no mo arigato pilama yelo wokan toko doko shingun gumenagan. God, we thank you for all your blessings. Ata jamya yata afanami. Ado, aho, om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Honor and respect to His Majesty, Haile Selassie. Honor and respect to Her Majesty, Wazaramanan. All thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim Jah. Blessed love and peace.